Hello, and welcome to Esther's Gardening Adventures. I'm Esther, and today I'm going to be giving a tour of the garden. But before I go any further, I want to thank everyone who commented yesterday on the video I posted about what's going on. And I'll talk about that in a second, but I was really struggling and emotionally, and your support, your comments of support, and also of suggestions of what to do really helped me turn my thoughts around on it. And this morning, so basically on Wednesday, we're getting a treatment done for a termite infestation in our foundation of our house. It was caught soon enough that no big damage was done, which is fantastic. I happened to be looking out the window at the right time to see them flying out, and so that's all very good. But so I was under the impression, until I heard back from you guys in the comments in the video, I was under the impression that they were going to spray to do the treatment. And I was worried about drift and other things getting onto my beds. And some of you commented that most likely they're going to inject the treatment, the poison, into the ground around the foundation. And I called the company, and sure enough, that's what they said they do. They said they dig a trench that's 4 to 6 inches deep and wide, and then they put a liquid down in there, and then they put the dirt back over. And so that's comforting in that I don't have to worry about the beds as much that are further away from the foundation. But it also means that just covering them while I'm getting treatment, the ones near the foundation, won't be enough. So what I'm going to have to do is replan the garden. And before I go any further, let me also say that I was thinking this morning how part of being a gardener is being willing and able to pick up and pivot. One of my favorite lines from a movie I watched way too many times as a kid, and it's not that great of a movie, but it was, we loved it as kids, was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And I'm not saying this line compares to what's happening here, because this is not that bad of a situation, right, compared to what can happen to gardens. But one of my favorite lines is from a song where these guys are trying to make a car, and they say, "From the ashes of disaster grow the roses of success." And I think we kind of have to keep that in mind, right? Whenever we hit a challenge in gardening, is to pick ourselves up. You can mourn. There's nothing wrong with being upset about it. There's nothing wrong with grieving, or I wouldn't say grieving in this case, but just kind of dealing with whatever setback you had. But then having the ability to remember what gardening is all about, why you got into it, and pick up and come up with new creative ideas that maybe are better than it would have been in the first place, is really how I'd like to be as a gardener. And I think having this experience early on, I'm the other thing is I'm very fortunate to have had this happen at this stage in the garden for the year. Having to have the foundation treatment done at this stage means all I have to lose potentially is the herbs I planted in that one bed, maybe the cabbage that is growing in the bed next to the foundation, and I'll have to replant dill. But herbs and dill, they regrow fast. And cabbage is a fun thing to grow, but it's definitely not one of those that if I don't have, I can't replace easily, or that will be a big issue. Cabbage is kind of the one of those that I plant because there's space to, but it's not one of my must-haves. So really, this is going to end up good, guys, and I am actually starting to get excited at the idea of trying this all out. For starters, I'm going to only grow the things I'm going to eat from in beds that are not near the foundation. My shade beds in the backyard, my part shade beds in the backyard that have my kale and my lettuces and my peas, and we'll have my beans this summer. Those beds are far enough away from the foundation that they'll be perfectly fine. And the bed that I grow my radishes on, that I grew my pansies and some other beets in addition to the big strip of beets, the one that has the llamas on it, I'll show you that in a second, that bed is far enough away, it'll be fine. And then behind me, you know, the bed under the tree, that's still going to be a flower bed because having as much shade as it does, you really can't do a lot of vegetables there. But then the bed back there where the white blocks are is where I had planned to have my flower bed originally, like my expanded flower bed. And that is now going to become part of my vegetable bed. It gets plenty of sun. And the only potential risk I have is I've heard gardeners talk about how planting near or between trees can be problematic because the roots often like to take up all the moisture and nutrients and stuff. But given that I really don't want to be growing things that I'm going to eat near a place where poison has been injected, I have to revamp that. But I think it'll be okay. And you know, I think I wouldn't have been this okay with it if I hadn't had the support of you guys yesterday and the comments to help get some questions answered this morning that I did. I do have one question for you guys. I had thought, well, maybe I could plant flowers in the beds nearest the foundation. But then I wonder if there would be a risk of those flowers having poison in them that would then kill the pollinators that use the flowers. It just occurred to me as I was starting to film this video, and I want to know your thoughts. What I may need to do is I may need to buy some large containers beyond the lengthwise containers and just put them on top of where that bed is to put the flowers in. I think that may be what I need to do. It's not optimal. The other bed that I have, so this is the one I'm talking about, what I add flowers to here. And you know, over there is where the treatment is going to be. The other bed is that one over there, the raised bed. That has garlic in it at the moment, and I'll go and show you the bed itself. But it is a raised bed, so I think maybe growing flowers in that one would be relatively okay. The roots might still touch the soil, but the majority of the treatment that's going to happen is going to be over here between these two window wells. So I'm a little bit less worried about that bed, and let me also show you why. All right, so for starters, my plan is that I'm going to leave these garlic in here, and I'm going to harvest them when they're done. They've been in the ground since November of last year. They should be ready within 2 months, and I'm hoping they're far enough along in their development that we won't have a trouble with them absorbing the poisons. I also believe because they're in a raised bed that they'll probably be good. Worst case scenario, I probably won't use the one that's closest there to that end. And you know what, guys? Last year I didn't plant along this edge because I had some herbs still growing, but I'm really glad I didn't plant any garlic along that side nearest the foundation, because I 100% wouldn't be using that, because that's going to be the closest to where they're going to potentially inject the poison, although I have to see where they inject it on the day of. So this bed, instead of being a tomato and garlic and basil bed, is likely going to be a flower bed. As well as this area will either be a bed for flowers, or it'll be a place where I'm going to put containers, which is probably more likely to grow flowers. My plan to use this area for growing tomatoes and cucumbers and squash in containers is still going to happen, so that doesn't change. And this was always going to be my pepper bed once I was done, my pepper and eggplant bed once I was done with the radishes, which will be probably about the time that I am ready to transplant out the rest of the peppers. That Brussels sprout hopefully will be done by then. And this bed is one that I'm not sure what to do with, and here's why. I will take you back so you see in the backyard, but the radishes in this bed have not grown well, and I don't think it's because they were winter sown and I transplanted them, because the other reason is the lettuce there is also very small, and that's compared to the backyard. The same lettuces, the same seeds, the same mixture I planted using winter sowing in the backyard have thrived. I honestly think, guys, that this bed may have, it has bagged cow manure that comes, it's well seasoned. It comes from the big box store, but there has been talk in the past about sometimes the chemicals that inhibit growth on plants, on weeds, that is used to prevent weeds growing in hay that's then fed to cows, ends up with a little bit of residual in their manure, which then prevents plants from growing big. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this bed. I am probably going to amend it and add. Now these flowers have done great, but granted, I got them when they were fully mature. So I just don't know for sure. I probably will still have to grow vegetables here because it's far from the foundation and it'll be a safe place. But maybe I'll grow things that if they don't survive, it's not the end of the world, right? Maybe I'll transplant the cabbage over here. And maybe, maybe I'll do some zucchini over here, which will probably get the vine borer stuff and all that stuff. So this bed is a challenging one for me. But the rest of this, I think I have a good plan for. And now let's get to the footage I shot yesterday. You may see that this looks a little crazy over here. It does not look neat and organized. And that is because, and you may notice I have chicken wire up, and that is because some critter, I think probably our resident groundhog, has been coming in and taking the leaves off of my sunflowers. And you can see down there the one, it basically took everything but one leaf off. And so, when it took everything but the one leaf off the one plant, I thought, well, maybe it won't come back. But then the next day it took the leaves off of that one, and or half the leaves off that one. And I thought, well, let me just put up some kind of fence. So I don't have any real poles. I have this one pole here kind of holding up that side of the fence, but I just kind of wrapped it around and put these around the bottom. The critter did try, you can see right there, the critter did try to dig under, so I just put that there, and it's been up for 3 or 4 days now, and no sign of the critter getting in. Obviously if the critter wanted to get in, it could. I didn't make this critter proof, but my ongoing theory, which so far has proven true, is that unless they're starving, I'm sure there's circumstances where if they're starving it changes, but unless they're starving, if you just kind of make it difficult for them to get to, and there's stuff they can get other places, they'll leave it alone. So yeah, my jinky sunflower protector is doing its job. But let's next get to how the under tree flower bed is doing. You can see the alyssum that I sowed is doing really well, going around the edges. It's doing a great job. And then you might notice these almost alien looking like plants. These are my dwarf chamomile plants, and some of them are doing better than others. I need to come out here and water everybody. Get down in there. But I cut down some tall grass that I need to take back to the compost. But you can see the chamomile is actually doing, I did this 2 days ago. I need to water it again today, I think. You can see the chamomile is recovering just fine, and I will show you. Here, this is a really good example of it doing really well after only 2 days in the ground. I had 2 full winter sowing jugs of chamomile, and I transplanted all of them, and they were filled to the brim. Let me show you a picture now. So I just did a basic count, and there is more than 50 chamomile seedlings in this bed here. In this case, I had winter sowing on my side to make this happen instead of having to go out to a nursery to buy my seedlings. These are some hostas I got I think it's 3 or 4 plants. I got them in just raw root bound version, or raw root version, from a lady who dug them up in exchange for me giving her some of my winter sown tomato seedlings and a few of my wild Indian wood oat seedlings. And I haven't figured out where to put them yet. I don't know if I want them in this bed or if I want to put them in the backyard. And until I decide, I just potted them up in here. This morning I pulled up the last of the radishes, but now this part of the bed is bare, and the beets are looking really good. They're starting to, oh guys, this weed is the bane of my gardening right now. This chokeweed is everywhere, everywhere. I pull it out. There's another one. I pull them out. I probably could have done a better job pulling that out, but I pull at least 5 to 10 of them out of the soil, out of my beds and around my beds. And see, there's even one coming back over there. There's some coming back down there. I pull them out constantly and they just keep coming back. They're a big nuisance in this area. The blackberry plants are going gangbusters. All right, to the backyard. Let's start off with our fence line sunflowers. The one on the end, which I think gets the most sun out of all of them, is really growing fast. I'm pretty sure just a few days ago it was about half that height. So I'm really excited that whatever critter is loving the sunflowers in the front yard has not been brave enough or discovered these yet. This one is also doing pretty well, but the baby, and I need to weed around it, but the baby, I don't think it's getting enough sun to really get going. I'm going to do a video specifically on where my winter sowing plants are at and my projects, but I thought I'd give you a quick just walkthrough look at, now these are store-bought, or actually these are from local farmers. The plants, just a general view of where I'm at on my winter sowing stuff, the stuff that I haven't transplanted yet. And I will do another video on this topic, I promise. So please watch for that. But now let's check in on our 2 shade beds. So remember me talking about how the lettuce in the front yard was so small. Look how massive. This is the same lettuces. This is the same mix I did in 2 different jugs that I transplanted, one in the backyard and one in the front. And now maybe you can tell me in comments, maybe part of the reason the front is growing worse is because maybe lettuces don't like a lot of sun. But I don't know that that's true. I don't think it was stunted as much as it has. And these are beautiful. I mean, look at the size of this leaf here. Just this one. Stunning. So I don't think that, I think it is a soil component issue. My Paris Island romaine lettuce has grown, has shot up, and in fact I'm definitely going to be harvesting some of those big leaves for a salad. And if you haven't heard of this before, I don't know how far along you are in your gardening process, but there's this idea of cut and come again with lettuces. And some lettuces do better than others with it. The concept is, as long as you have these little guys in the middle growing up, see the little guys, like you would normally see like the heart of a romaine, when you buy a romaine lettuce head from the store, there'll always be these little pieces in the middle. And those are the leaves that are going to grow to be as big as these leaves. And what you can do is you can take out the outer leaves, just make sure not to take off those growth ones, and the plant will continue growing up the stalk until it basically goes to seed. But you can harvest leaves basically all spring and even summer long if you have a part shade bed like I do. So I definitely recommend the cut and come again method. I'm really liking having the mixed leaves plus the romaine lettuce. It makes it feel like there's enough variety to have a really nice looking salad with a variety of textures. And look guys, look how much my kale has grown. Let's get a closer look. The red Russian kale, they're looking huge. I had a couple pieces in a salad the other day. And then the lacinato kale is starting to get big enough to reach the sides. So I'm going to start harvesting those leaves. And what I do is I just lift up the bricks or lift up the wood on this side, and I just reach in, get what I need, and then cover it back up. And so far, I have had luck not having any any cabbage butterflies sneak in and lay their cabbage worm eggs. So far, using this bridle tool to protect my brassicas has worked, both in the front bed for the cabbage and for the kale back here. And I think I'm going to try it also for my cucumbers, for the cucumber beetle, because I really want cucumbers this year. The raspberry berry patch is kind of out of control right now, but guys, look, we have our first flowers coming. There we go. Look at that. That flower is about to bloom, and it'll be beautiful, and the bees will be all over it. Oh. Now it's been 2 weeks since I filmed, and boy, have things changed back here. The peas are almost to my waist line. And you know what? I didn't end up trellising them at all by manually, like, attaching them to anything. And they grew on their own. They attached themselves just fine to these trellises. I had 3 rows. I had one on each side plus one down the middle. And it seems like it worked well. I had only originally put up 1 trellis, and someone commented on this channel on one of my videos to put 2 up, and I really think that was a great idea. So thank you to whoever commented that. I never ended up transplanting out and moving the nasturtiums that were volunteers in the garden, so I think they're probably going to end up taking up that back row, and that's fine. Look at this beautiful, stunning, large leaf spinach. I mean, it's the palm of my hand. Yeah, so I'm going to be harvesting some of that and putting that in a stir fry tonight, I think. The mustard greens are coming along well, and I transplanted out 2 seedlings of black-seeded Simpson lettuce, but these 2 are 2 that I grew by seed direct sowing into the soil, and you can see what a difference winter sowing something so far over growing by seed makes, even for lettuces. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And again, thank you so much for all the support you've given me in all aspects of this channel. I really, really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. And if you aren't already a subscriber, please consider doing so, as I post content regularly and you don't want to miss it. And make sure you have that bell button turned on so you get alerted when I do post new videos, such as the tour of how my winter sown seedlings are doing in the backyard. Looking good, guys. I can't wait to show you. All right, otherwise, I'll see you next time.